My talk's about moving from me to we, and I don't really have a personal story to share as much as a life that I've lived, because I feel like most of us look at life as a destination instead of a journey. And so I'd just like to share a little bit of my journey with you today. There's two things that you need to know about me. One is that I'm passionate about building communities, and the second one is that I'm passionate about ending childhood hunger here in the US, so I do a lot of work with No Kid Hungry. Just keep those things in mind because they'll come in play. But I want to go back to when I was 14 years old, right about this time of year. I was living in the suburbs of Chicago in Arlington Heights. My family had a house on Braeside, and I had just graduated from middle school. And my parents invited our friends and our neighbors and some family over to celebrate me graduating from middle school. What was supposed to be a happy time in my life had me laying in my bed with tears running down my face because all I could think of, for as much as I hated school, I had another 4 years in high school, and then what society told us was we were supposed to go to college after that. And then what my parents had kind of instilled in us was we should become a doctor or a lawyer, which meant more school. And I remember looking up at the ceiling at that moment in time, when everybody was downstairs having a good time, not knowing that I was up in my room doing this, and thinking to myself, what can I do to make this different? What can I do instead of just being sad and placing blame on everything else that was happening? So I set a goal for myself at that particular point in time, and that was, I think what I was truly missing was a sense of belonging, a sense of being part of something, because when I was in grade school, I went to school with all my neighbors. When I went to middle school, it was a whole bunch of grade schools that went together, and I got lost. And so I said, if you're feeling lost and you're feeling sad, why don't you change that and make your goal, by the time you graduate high school, that everyone will know who Tim McDonald is? Ultimately, I did that. I was elected student council president. All the administrators knew me, probably not for all the right reasons. But it sounds kind of funny. That was the first step from moving to me to we, is understanding that we can choose ourselves and don't have to wait for somebody else to select us. We have the power to do what we want to do and change what we want to change. And before you can become part of we, you need to understand that you're choosing yourself first. And that's what I did when I was 14 years old. The funny thing is, 30 years later, I'm only now being able to look back on that and realize the lesson that I learned at that young age. When I was working at the Huffington Post a few years ago, that's what brought me from Chicago out to New York, I was a director of community there. And I got to interact with a lot of people. Usually it was people that were very similar to me. Same economic status, same housing standards, same interests, same passions. Obviously, walking the streets in New York, it's very easy to walk through a bunch of people that don't look like us and not pay any attention to them. And I don't know what it was about one day in February, about a year and a half ago, that I was walking down Broadway from my bus stop to our office and saw a man sitting on the sidewalk asking for money. Normally, I would have just walked right past, but something in me just made me stop and ask him what his name was. And that homeless man was Joshua. And I remember they were calling for bad weather. It was supposed to get really cold. We were supposed to get another snowstorm. That was like one of those winters that we just got massive snow. And I didn't have any money on me, and I felt bad that I couldn't do anything. But I reached out to him and just told him that I was thinking about him and I hoped that he found somewhere warm to get in tonight because I knew it was going to get cold out. So I went into the office, and I got on my computer, and I do what I always do when I want to share something. I go on Facebook and post it. And I told the story about how I met Joshua and how I felt like I should do more for him, but I didn't know what it was. I don't want to just go get money. I want to do something that's going to give meaning to him, to have purpose for him. And what happened was a whole bunch of people that I'm friends with responded and gave me ideas of what they do. If you couldn't tell, I have a bunch of really great and awesome friends that I'm very thankful for. But one of them actually told me that what I did already made a difference. Was that I looked for people that are different than me, and I let them know that they matter. I actually took time out of my life to put myself and reach out and see our differences and then find our commonalities together. And just by doing that and letting somebody else know, I already made an impact on his life. But what I didn't realize at that time, and it really changed my life, was that by sharing that, it changed my life. And it changed everybody that saw that and everybody that heard the story. Because now more and more people are starting to do this. And this is what I call the ripple effect. It's every action we take creates another action, and most of the time we can never see it. But we need to trust it. We need to trust that it's out there, and we need to continue to make these ripples. That led me, and this is the first time I'm ever saying this in public. I've shared it personally with people. But when people ask me what I do, I say I change the world. Because I mean it and I believe it. Still feels uncomfortable to say it, but I do. And this brings me into this whole thing that I started this year, which was, and I loved when the rabbi told us what the Hebrew word for love was giving. Because I started this project this year called 365 Days of Giving, where I give something away every day. And I just send it out to a group of people. My email list is only about 150 people, so it's not huge. But what I can tell you is this giving effect is absolutely undeniable in the impact that it has in the efforts that I personally care about. It's funny, right? I'm giving stuff away and stuff is happening to me. So for giving on Monday for No Kid Hungry, we had a summer action day where we wanted people, through our online efforts, to write Congress and tell them the importance of the summer meal programs, and there's a CNR bill that's going through Congress right now. Through that one list that I have, through my 365 days of giving, I had people sharing that have never expressed an interest or that I didn't even know, sharing this message about what we were doing for No Kid Hungry on this day. What was even more remarkable was their friends were taking that message and now sharing it again. And what I really came to learn was that we can't move to we until we put our message out there and let people feel our heartbeat. If we're not consistent with our message, if we're not passionate about our cause, nobody will believe us, nobody will follow us, and nobody will help us. And giving, to me, has been a way not only for me to love other people, but it's also been a way for me to help other people. And I help other people by listening instead of always talking. I listen to what they want, I see what their needs are, and then I try and help them. And this has been so powerful and so moving that it just has absolutely transformed my life into just feeling like my whole purpose to being on this planet is to help other people by giving and changing the world. And so as I say this right now, I can change the world. I change the world. I'm going to ask all of you to do something. And even if you're at home, I want you to do this. And I don't want you to do it sitting down. One, because it's after lunch and I don't want you to fall asleep if you're starting to. And secondly, because I know you're louder if you are standing up as opposed to sitting down. So if everybody would just stand up for a minute. I'm going to say it first. I change the world. Now on 3, I want all of us to say it at exactly the same time, and I don't want you to say it so nobody hears you. I want you to say it so all of us hear it. 1, 2, 3. I change the world. Do you see what just happened there, the difference between one person saying it and this whole room saying it? We just went from a me to a we, and the impact on that is undeniable. The impact that you have together is so much more than any one person individually. You can all sit down, although I like that you're all standing. My challenge to you today is what we just did was words. Now I want you to go do. I want you to take that next step and do something like I did when I was with Joshua. That I stopped and I did something, I actually had a conversation with them. I did something after that and I did it. I do this with No Kid Hungry and I help end childhood hunger in the US. It doesn't have to be, to change the world, anything that is mammoth. It doesn't have to be anything that is huge and makes headlines and gets in the media that's on the 5 o'clock news. It just has to be something that you care about, and it can be as small as smiling at somebody on the street. It can be as small as opening the door for somebody. It can be as small as giving somebody a hug. And if there's one thing that I have to thank Jeff for, is I got to speak at his 140 conference in Detroit when he had it there when I was living in Chicago. And he was the first person I've ever seen in public to give every single speaker a hug. Even the ones that walked off, that wanted a handshake, he gave them a hug. Ever since that day, I've been a hugger. So thank you. Go change the world. Make a difference. And I thank you for listening.
That knowledge. Oh, wow.